Good. We're live now.
Okay, so I was reviewing our learning objective today concerning our mental health awareness. So the first one is to understand mental health and mental health continuum and review the causes of mental illness. Also, we'll be talking about some data and discuss myths and misconceptions about mental illness, importance of mental health, recognizing symptoms of mental distress, diagnosis and likely treatment that you may face, and how to protect our mental health, as well as strategies to support mental health awareness. So the first question of the day is, what is really mental health when we hear the word mental health? In my definition, it refers to maintenance of successful mental activities. That includes maintaining your productive daily activities, your relationships, ability to adapt to changes that comes, and coping with life stressors. So here I have some arrows that shows how easily someone can deviate from positive mental health to mental distress. It's very common. Even those that didn't have any kind of genetic issues or inclination towards mental illness can easily have something thrown into the balance to put them into the total pole of mental distress. So it's easy for someone to change from healthy to unhealthy. To explain it better, mental illness can occur when brain is not working well or is working in the wrong way. When this occurs, of course, you see that one or more functions of the brain may be disrupted. So that way we're looking at the way we're thinking, the way we perceive things, the emotion that we're showing, the signal, physical and behavior, our actions. When a person's life is significantly affected, then we conclude that, okay, this person has a mental illness or mental disorder. There are several causes of mental illness. So although the etiology, or what we call the exact cause of mental illness remains unknown, after several studies, it's becoming clear that the conditions are caused by several factors. So, namely, the biological factor, this environmental factor, as well as the psychological factor. So I'll be talking first about the biological factors. That actually refers to abnormal functioning of the nerve cell circuits or pathways that connect brain region in the brain. So we call it a nerve circuit, like what fires in your brain. So these produce chemicals that we call neurotransmitters. Anytime there is disruption in your neurotransmitters, then someone may show signs of mental illness. Other biological factors also can be genetic or hereditary. For instance, most people don't go on to develop mental illness, but they inherit that susceptibility. Okay, they are actually prone to developing one. So, but because they didn't have other factors playing in, they don't go on all the way to develop mental illness. Another one is infection. For example, the pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorder we call PANDA, which is caused by a bacteria called Streptococcus, may actually predispose some children to developing illness as well as OCD behavior. Another biological factor is brain defect or injury. This may be due to motor vehicle accidents that cause traumatic brain injury. Another one is prenatal damage. When you're pregnant, especially during the formation of the brain, anything that disrupts that development can actually lead to mental illness in the long run. For example, if there is lack of oxygen to that child in the womb, that may cause that. Also during delivery, also we've seen this happen. Another one is substance abuse. I put it under category of biological, especially when this is a long-term use of substances. These can actually play effects on your mental health. Poor nutrition is one. For example, all the things you should get, like magnesium and other kind of vitamins that you're not getting. Then exposure to toxins is another one. Here we do lead tests on children to make sure they're not living in an environment that has a lot of lead, because that can cause mental illness in the long run. Now, talking about environmental factors, that's when I talk about a death or divorce that happened. Some people cope well with any changes like this in life, but some cannot. Remember, I talked about some people that have the heredity factor and actually are prone to developing mental illness. Now, when they face this kind of situations in the environment, like death or divorce, it leads to complicated grief process for them, and they can't just handle that. Also, we'll look at dysfunctional family life, issues with low self-esteem, excessive anger, loneliness, changing jobs or schools. Some don't adapt quickly to changes. Then the big core of it is the social cultural expectations, and that's actually there with a lot of us. Our family places a lot of values and expectation on us. And this is actually some burden placed on us in some people. It's like, okay, how am I going to deal with this? This is what my family expects me to do. I'm the head of the family, but I don't have enough financial capability to take care of this. My mom and dad want me to be a doctor or lawyer, but I wanted to study animal in the bush, things like that. All these social cultural expectation plays a lot of factors in our mental health. The third one is psychological. For example, severe trauma suffered as a child can have a long-lasting experience on that child. Emotional, physical, sexual abuse play a lot of roles in that. Important early loss also. For example, if somebody loses a parent at a young age, some bonding did not get passed down, and the person may be aloof in the society and not socialized very well. So that is very, very important. Neglect and poor ability to relate to another is another factor of psychological factor. I put in a squiggy word here that some mental illness begin in childhood and to adolescence, but most of the time it's not easily diagnosed because a child jumping up and down, you say, well, that's how children behave, but might actually be a mental illness. Well, some mental illness will manifest in adolescence or in adulthood. Now let's talk a little bit about statistics. So I went globally because I don't have a lot of resources from Niger. According to WHO, this was 2 years ago, it was estimated that at least 1 million people die from suicide. And that represents a global mortality rate of 16 people per 100,000 people. So we're now translating it to 1 death in 40 seconds. So the prediction is that by 2020, the rate of death will increase to 1 every 20 seconds. Then now with COVID included in all this, I bet that has also increased this significantly. In the last 45 years, suicide rates have increased 60% worldwide, and is among the 3 leading causes of death among those between the age group of 15 to 44. And I'm talking about both male and female here. So suicide attempts are up to 20 times more frequent than completed suicide. Some people actually attempted suicide, but they don't really completed it to the end. For example, maybe somebody saw them on time and rescued them. So we're noticing that we're seeing a lot of cases of more suicide attempts now than completed suicide, which is becoming frequent. Although the suicide rates have traditionally been the highest among the elderly male, the rates among young people are increasing to the extent that now they are the group of the highest risk in the third of all countries. Mental health disorder, particularly when I'm talking about depression and substance use, they are associated with more than 90% of the cases of suicide. So many suicides that are resulting from many complex social cultural factors is more likely to occur during the period of socioeconomic problem, as well as family and individual crisis. So now, example, we're talking about loss of loved one, unemployment. Now what is actually really in trend is sexual orientation, difficulty accepting your own identity, disassociation from community or other social or belief group and honor. I've seen several people driven from church because, you identify as gay, so you're no longer welcome in our family. So that leads to mental health issues with those kind of people. Now, in Nigeria, this was 2016 by Dr. Dauda Sulaiman. He conducted these studies and he found out that estimated 20% to 30% of our population are believed to suffer from mental disorder. When you look at this, we have over 200 million population in Nigeria. That's a significant amount of people living with mental illness. But how many psychiatrists do we have? We don't have a lot of resources in Nigeria up to date. Now let's talk about some myths about mental health. Some people said, well, mental health problem don't affect me to fear, God forbid, not my portion. Well, not everybody's portion, but unfortunately, people deal with mental health on a daily basis, whether you're a Christian or atheist. Personality weakness or character flaw cause mental health problem. That's not true. People with mental health problem can snap out of it if they try hard enough. That is still not true. It's not like a switch that you turn off or on. There is no hope for people with mental health problems. Once a friend or family member develops mental health problems, he or she will never recover. That is not true as well. There is hope for people with mental health problems. It's just about early diagnosis and treatment. Children don't experience mental health problem. So not true. Now we're having a lot of children that are dealing with mental illness. People with mental health problem are violent and unpredictable. I say on the line here, not all are violent and unpredictable. Remember I said that some people deal with depression, anxiety, not necessarily are they violent and unpredictable. Whereas some are on the other opposite side of like bipolar disorder, or they are dealing with a lot of schizophrenia or other psychotic symptoms. Those may be violent and unpredictable when they don't have a treatment in place. Another myth is that people with mental health needs, even those who are managing their mental illness, cannot tolerate the stress of holding down a job. That is not true. Because someone has a mental illness doesn't mean they can't lead a productive life with proper treatment. Now let's discuss why mental health is very important and why I am particularly passionate about this. Untreated mental illness can affect your relationships significantly, especially relationship between your family, your friends, your education, also your job, association. The most important aspect also is the law enforcement. When someone, if, for example, having bipolar disorder, gets into a mania realm, then you go to a shop to shoplift because you're not getting treatment at that time. So it's easily for that person to be arrested and thrown in jail. Another one is, okay, oh, now I'm having these issues, not treated, then engage in DUI. Of course, that person is going to jail too. So I've seen majority of people that have a problem with law enforcement dealing with issues with untreated mental illness. Mental illness can affect productivity as well as your personal development. It's not easy for you to want to learn to actually develop yourself if you're dealing with mental illness. Also, it can lead to other problems such as being hostile and aggressive. That is some antisocial behavior. Engaging in high-risk behavior is also part of the problem that it can arise as mental health is untreated. Also, using drugs or alcohol and being sexually promiscuous is another one. So we've talked about this now. Let's review early warning signs. What are the symptoms that you will notice if somebody is deviating from the norm and actually having dealing with mental illness? It's a lot, but I try to summarize as much as I could. Number one is when you find yourself excessively worrying about something or have unrealistic fear about something, then there is a problem. In life, we all worry about one thing or another, but when it is too excessive, then you start questioning like, okay, what's going on here? Another one is low motivation. For example, you've been up and doing things before, but now you just don't want to get up from bed or do anything in life, or feeling depressed or sad. That's another sign. When you started having confusion or problems with concentration or focus, there is time to start looking for help. Another one is extreme mood changes. For example, people can control it. So this is seen a lot in people with bipolar disorder. When you suddenly have highs and low mood, 1 minute you're euphoric, the next minute you're very depressed. That's another one. And having feelings of prolonged irritability or anger is another one. Avoiding friends and social activities or just wanting to stay alone and not interact with the social world is another one that needs to be considered. And difficulties understanding or relating to other people is a sign. Changes in your sleep habits is another sign too, of feeling excessively tired, having low energy, fatigue, and changes in eating habits may be a sign of mental illness. When I say changes in eating habits, it may be poor appetite, and also it may be like binge eating, like having excessive appetite. Another factor is, another warning sign is changes in sex drive. This also occurs in both male and female, not just male problem. When you notice that this is happening, then it's time to start considering like, okay, what's going on? If this is not medical, then we want to look at the aspects of psychology. Difficulty perceiving daily reality. For example, we're looking at having delusions, hallucinations. That is when a person experiences or senses things that don't really exist in objective reality. Inability to perceive changes in one's own feelings or behavior or personality. Like you just don't know. Other adults are looking at you like, okay, this is going on, but you lack insight into it. Abuse of substance use like alcohol or drugs is another early warning sign. And multiple physical ailments without obvious causes. You've gone to several medical doctors, they said this is not what is going on, but you're having all these symptoms. You may want to start thinking about psychology aspects. Thinking or preoccupation with suicide is another early warning sign. Nothing is changing in your life to make you go this route, but preoccupation with suicide do occur in some people, and I always encourage that, okay, you need to seek help immediately. Inability to carry out daily activities or handle daily problem and stress is another warning sign. Then having intense fear of weight gain or concern with appearance is another warning sign. Now, talking about diagnosis and treatment. Knowing the warning signs can help you know when to speak to a professional. For example, many people get accurate diagnosis in the first step in their treatment plan. Unlike diabetes or cancer, we don't have a medical test that can say, oh, let's go draw your blood and see what kind of condition you have. That's not what it is. But we use a DSM, which is called Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder. So this assesses your symptoms. Then if you meet the criteria, then they made the diagnosis. After diagnosis, then a healthcare provider or a psychiatrist can develop a treatment plan, which may include medication or psychotherapy. And psychotherapy may be cognitive-based, it may be DBT, it may be EMDR, and a lot of other things that we have. Also, it might just be lifestyle changes that we need to do to get treated for the condition. So now what can we do to protect our mental health? I always encourage open discussion is the number one. Most of the time we're told to never let anybody see you sweat, men are not supposed to cry, things like that. So it's very easy when I see the male counterparts. It's easy for them to discuss among each other, sports, beer, the news, economic time, financial prospects and all that, but not how they feel emotionally. This is really impacted by our culture. But women, on the other hand, we are more honest and open about how we feel and talk to each other. For example, it's easy for me to pick up my phone and call Bingpe in UK and be like, Bingpe, this is what is going on, and I can have her as my accountability partner. But men, we need to do more of this. Eating healthy is another one that I put on how we can protect our mental health. Adequate exercise is very important. And taking time for yourself regularly. Most of the time at our age, we operate under a lot of stress. For example, you've gone very early in the morning, drive through Lagos traffic to come back home, then have to deal with children, sleep, then another thing the following day. The same thing. So most of the time, we don't have time for ourselves to actually have a woosa and actually relax. It's very important to do this. Good sleep is very important as well, and managing your stress promptly. Play is important as well. Learn something new and exciting. Because we are growing old doesn't mean we shouldn't read anymore. I found that that's really dwindling. It doesn't mean that we should develop ourselves anymore, both socially and spiritually. We need to do that. And understanding yourself is very important. For example, being mindful of your thoughts and feelings. I keep a journal. I put that as an example here. I keep a journal to recognize when my thoughts and my action is deviating from what I used to. So I can quickly say, okay, this is not how I usually think, what's going on? And this is not how I usually respond to things like this. So that will give you insight into something that is not really going all right. I put on here to say no sometimes to avoid overextending yourself. And I'm saying this to us because it's very easy for families to put undue expectations for us. Both are in Nigeria and US. Oh, extended family need to pay school fees and you're saying yes to that, but you have your own responsibility. So saying no sometimes is not being mean, it's just being realistic with ourselves. Making time for quiet. If possible, turn off your phone, turn off your TV, turn off social media, and just have that time to mentally take a break. Practicing stress management and other self-care strategies that fit your schedule. I put on there because this is a lot. Some people do yoga, some are not so flexible. Some people will meditate, some don't believe in meditation. So people have their own way of relaxing that are actually safe. Getting help as soon as you recognize or suspect that you need it from a trained mental health provider is very, very important. In conclusion, I want to bring forth these 4 points to encourage open discussion about mental health. So far, we demystify social stigma that is actually attributed to mental health and raise more awareness. More people will come forward to receive the care that they need. Learning to protect our mental health is very important. And recognizing early warning signs and seek treatment without delay is very, very important. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Yinka.
Thank you very much.
Mateo Cook.
Hello, Laja.
Don't come near my house.
Okay, so we should ask. So I have a question.
Well done, Yinka.
Thank you very much, Yinka.
My dear brothers and sisters, thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
what are the different
I really appreciate that. So that was like no.
Oh, okay. I can't go. I see your question here, Juwan. You want to know about
yeah, somebody said I should ask it verbally so that when at least the live feed we capture it. So my question, well, before the question, thank you. When you were talking, again, just like when Bumi was speaking last week, just occurred to me that you are a group for you. Like there's so much expertise in our group that there are things that we could have. I mean, well, I guess that's just the way life is, but it's good to know that there are people here that we can run to.
You just said my mind.
Or help, honestly. Like because we have each other, but I think our blessings lie in each other's hands considerably. That's where
that's true. That's true. For example, I know I can run to Ayo, Deji, and others, to talk about financial stuff.
Yeah, that is very true.
I wanted to have a conversation with my daughter about what Bumi talked last week. I had to say Bumi Joe, Mami Tubambage, seriously, they had a long discussion. So yeah, my question is, well, what are the different types of mental illness? Because it seems like mental illness is an umbrella term that covers many, many things. I'm on board with depression, I'm on board with major depressive disorder, bipolar depressive disorder, schizophrenia. What is the difference between them?
I will be reviewing. I plan to review.
I think when we're growing up, we didn't know how wide the spectrum of mental illness was. And that was our own impression was of, your style. That was our own impression of mental. That's it. But clearly there are spectrums of it that can be managed well. I don't have a problem. Not all the same. If you could please, just go through that.
In the top one now.
Okay, to answer Juwan, I plan to do that in part 2. I want to review each and every mental illness because we have a lot of diagnoses that actually we call neurodevelopmental illnesses that's focused on children. And also we have a lot of classification also for adults. So they differ because of how they present and the symptoms. For example, when somebody is showing up with depression, we want to know what kind of, is it because of a complicated grief process or did something happen that caused momentarily depression? For example, is it a breakup? Is it a loss of loved one? Those can happen. All of us can get depressed over a loss. But for it to qualify as something that is really serious is when it has gone long enough and has become what we call cyclothymia or dysthymia, then, okay, this is over 6 months. Now, what's going on? Remember, I talked to you about criteria for diagnosis. It's not just one symptom, like, no, I didn't sleep very well last night, I must run to my psychiatrist. No, it has to be a lot of symptoms. So that's why we use this criteria to look at everyone objectively and be like, okay, you're having low sex drive, low motivation, you're not sleeping very well, poor appetite. So looking at all those symptoms, then we can now form a cluster of what that symptoms belong to. So that's why we have DSM manual to guide us on what how we can classify people on how they're feeling. So major depressive disorder, before we get to that, of course, somebody has to have that depression. Then it's a depression that has spanned over a long time. Then we now classify under major depressive disorder. So, and even when we talk about major depressive disorder, they have their category. It can be mild, it can be severe, it can be moderate. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, so schizophrenia is like the worst version of it, right?
No, schizophrenia is quite different. That's actually, there are a lot more I look at biological aspects as well as genetic with that one. Schizophrenia, yeah, somebody may be depressed or have anxiety or panic attack, but also schizophrenia include having auditory and visual hallucinations, like hearing voices that are not there or seeing things that weren't there.
Gotcha.
So yeah, and also might be command hallucinations, like things that are not there telling you to go eat somebody or telling you to go commit suicide. That one is a different total pole. So that's schizophrenia, and that's actually is managed over time. Then bipolar disorder is another one that is different. Bipolar disorder, you may have hypomania behavior, like high-risk behavior. I want to go break bottles. I want to drink myself to stupor. I want to sleep with 100 people. 1 minute, you're very burst of energy. That euphoria is there. Then another minute, you're very depressed and don't want to even get up to brush your teeth. That you see with bipolar disorder. Then another one is OCD behavior. That's actually we categorize under anxiety. OCD behavior is like, okay, I have to wash my hand 100 times. I need to check the logs 100 times to make sure nobody is burning it. These actually affect your life in the sense that you can't function or do anything because you're preoccupied. Some are afraid of germs. Some just are afraid of numbers. Oh, if this number 5, I don't want to go near it. It has something to them, you know? So this is a different class also. Then you have those who actually suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. Maybe it's common with military men. They've seen a lot of people suffer in the line of battle. They lost friends and loved ones there. Then they come back and relieving that. So they have a lot of hypervigilance. Then when they sleep, they have a lot of nightmare and night terrors. That's another one too, that is caused by a direct environmental factor. And the list go on because another one is gender identity too. We call it gender dysphoria. And you see people wanting to get hormone replacement to change their sex because they don't believe they were born in the right body. Then another one is ADHD, which is also part of neurodevelopmental issues. So we have the attention deficit disorder. OCD, I mentioned that. ODD is another one, that is opposition defiant disorder. These are for children. What else? It's a lot. Even we haven't talked about personality disorders. People have different personalities. You have those with antisocial personality, borderline personality disorder. You know, we have a lot.
Oh my goodness.
Bingpe, please. Bingpe has a question.
Oh, Bingpe.
Bingpe, you are muted, though. You are muted.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, guys. Can you please bring up the slide on myths about mental health?
Myths, okay, I have to go to share slide.
Yes, just that section. And you just touched on each briefly. Is it possible to go into the details? Because there is one particular one. And for the benefit of those who are just joining.
Hold on. My screen is so small and I'm not wearing glasses today. Okay, say me Tida. Okay, right here.
Yeah.
This is one.
So people with mental health needs, even those who are managing, cannot tolerate stress of holding down a job. Yes, we have that myth. How has it been addressed? And also, mental health problems don't affect me. Does that mean everybody, 100%, we are 16 on here, we have mental health? Mental health disorder.
All of us can actually.
Or we might have faced mental health disorder. Or at some point in our life while growing up. So it's just going through those and explain them a little bit more, please.
No problem at all. Some people believe that, well, mental health problem is for other people that are weak-minded, so it can never affect me. That is not true. That's the reason why I talk about mental health and mental distress. And it's a continuum. We all can bounce from one to another. But let me talk about, let's say, health in general. For example, you're healthy, up and beat, going well, then suddenly you develop a cold. So something has happened in that equilibrium. So you develop a cold, then you have to take some medication to take care of that cold, then return you back to the normal basis of your health. Same thing with mental health. One can be very, very okay on mental health pole, then something happened in life that caused a significant problem that led you to have maybe depression or anxiety or something and bring you to that mental distress state. But with diagnosis and early treatment, you can return back to the base of your mental health.
Are there natural remedies?
Yes.
Okay.
There are remedies, like I mentioned. Number one is identifying what is actually causing that issue. I always say, think about what you're thinking about. like getting to the source of that. What is bringing this thought in me? Why am I feeling this way? You want to check that first. For example, well, I will use the example of a woman with low libido. So you wake up in the morning, you just don't feel like, okay, what's going on? This may actually be medical. And if you're having that, it may lead to depression because it wasn't treated. But imagine when it's treated, you're back to your normal self, then you don't have that mental distress anymore. So that is just one example. It's always good to investigate. When you see something is actually going from normal norm, you want to investigate and find out what is really going on. If it needs to be treated, if you just need to take a little break for yourself and just relax, if you need to just soak in that tub and do some chanting or whatever you do, you know, if you need to just pray about it, because I don't remove prayer, you know, things like that can actually restore our mental health. So mental health can affect any one of us. That's what I want to bring up. Then some people believe that, oh, well, it's your personality weakness or character flaw, so it's your fault. It's nobody's fault. Nobody begged for calamity to happen in life. So unfortunately, life throws us some stuff that we don't really, nobody say that you merit, you know? So I want to correct that. Like, it's not just somebody else's problem, and it's not because of character flaw. It's not because you're weak personally. It's just something happened somewhere and you need help.
So on that point, for example, somebody that is taking marijuana,
Mm-hmm.
can that trigger disposition to having a disorder?
It's very possible. I talk about substance use, because when you take marijuana, especially a boku load of it, and you started having hallucination and seeing your mother that is dead in years, that's something you've done for yourself. The basis of diagnosis, what I do when somebody comes to me with a list of symptoms in the clinic, I always do urine drug test. I want to know, are you on meth and you're seeing Jesus appearing to you, or what is really going on? You know, I want to make sure that we rule that out. If it's substance use disorder, we want to treat substance use disorder and not use fentanyl to treat stomach pain.
Okay, good.
The third one is that people with mental health problem can snap out of it if they try hard enough. I don't believe that. It's not something you just turn off and on or snap out. That's not it. There's no magic wand for that. So when someone is dealing with mental health problem, it may take a while for you to get treated. Even when you start somebody on antidepressants, you know, I see this a lot in clinic, and they started feeling better within 3 months and asking, oh, Rachel, when can we taper off the meds? I always say it's not time yet. You want to actually get to remission, then we can taper you off the meds. But if we do that early enough, you can go back into that slump and actually have issues. So I always explain that. So it takes time. Even when you go to psychotherapy, if you're not taking medication and somebody wanted to do therapy, like one-on-one interpersonal therapy with you, it will be like maybe 8 to 12 sessions. So it's not something you can just go in one and say, oh, I've seen a therapist, I'm fine now. No, that's not how it goes. Then saying that there is no hope for people with mental health problem, that's not true. There is hope for people with mental health problem. That's why I'm actually encouraging open discussion about it. Because people, actually, we are more understanding when we know that we have a colleague or a friend or a loved one that is going through and having mental health, a mental illness. So if I know that Mr. Hay, who is a friend to me, has a bipolar disorder, and I notice that he's having a lot of euphoria, I can ask, okay, Mr. Hay, what's going on today? Then we can actually have a discussion and discover that, oh, Mr. Hay is not on his medication. Oh, maybe he ran out, maybe he can't afford the script. Then I can help out that way. So that's why it's good to actually have that. Then having that social support will help Mr. Hay in staying on his medication and being compliant to it and actually living a more productive life. Okay. So it's very important to state that as well. Children don't experience mental health problem. That's not true. Lately, we have a lot of children that are bullied at school. That's why I always say that as parents, please encourage open discussion with our children, because you don't know what they're going through. So I've seen a lot of children. In fact, was it last year, my daughter Rena came home and told me about a friend that was drawing pictures of lynching herself or cutting herself. I'm like, what is going on? So she told me that she was being teased about her weight. But this girl has never talked to the mom about it, but told Rena that she kept a knife that she wanted to hurt herself with. I have to call the mom over the phone. I encourage my children to talk openly about mental issues. If you're having anxiety, you need to mention it and let me know. If something is going on, we need to encourage that open communication. And now our children are so exposed to a bunch of stuff on YouTube, and now I'm seeing more depression with children as young as 6 years old. So we need to censor what they're watching. There was a time that they had this character over YouTube that was actually telling children how to kill themselves. So, and some children are just so scared and they tell them, oh, don't tell your parents or I'm coming to get you. And they don't say anything. But when you notice that your child is very unusually anxious and having some deviation, you want to start investigating, like, okay, what's going on here? And if you started noticing that a child is having oppositional defiance, if you say seated, they want to stand up and just disobey you, acting out, you want to investigate that. Maybe a way of them communicating with you that something is going on. So children do experience mental health problems. I'm just saying that in general. Also, there are some other neuro developmental challenges like autism spectrum disorder. And also you have, this autism, actually, most of our people don't believe that. I have a very close family that I noticed the child have autism. She told me to fear aqua. I noticed this child is 3 years old, not talking. I'm like, okay, you can correct this with speech therapy, with occupational therapy. We need to start treating this child now. She said, God forbid, don't wish me bad things. But now, down the line, she came back and said, I'm sorry I said that. It's true, they've seen this in school that my child is not meeting developmental milestone. So these are stuff that we need to actually be aware of too, that children do have go through mental health problems. Another one is ADHD, which is very common. A lot of people don't want it, they don't believe in treating it, but I believe in treating ADHD so far you meet all the criteria. Some children are ostracized because of their ADHD, because they disrupt the class too much and they're seen different. In fact, some of us that grew up together, Juma, we have ADHD in young, but we weren't treated because we chop cane very well. But that doesn't correct the fact that we were able to concentrate in class. So did that affect grade? Yes. Did that affect how you interact with your peers? Yes. Does that make you being labeled as troublesome? Of course. So children do experience that as well. And the next one is like people with mental health problems are violent and unpredictable. I don't want to generalize the term. That's why I said it's a myth. So because it's not everyone with mental health problem that will go breaking bottles or fighting or doing all sort of stuff. Not quite. You have to like experience some psychotic symptoms before you can get to this point of being violent and unpredictable. And most of the time, these people present on the streets or sometimes in the hospital emergency room and later down to psychiatry ward. People with mental health needs, or even those who are managing their mental illness, cannot tolerate stress of holding down a job. This is a myth. Someone can have mental illness and be treated and actually return to that equilibrium of mental health so they can handle stress thrown at them without any issue. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. You did. You did. You explained a bit more. Thank you.
Well, I've noticed that people are very quiet and less excited today. What is?
Are you people scared? Come on, let's talk about this.
Nobody even got to assess them.
We are learning from
They don't want to
assess
them.
I'm not going to ask like one of
even Buki is gentle today. Buki has a difficulty.
No, you know, this topic is very sensitive. This topic is very sensitive. If you talk too much now, they will start suspecting you.
No,
exactly.
to be, and that is
we want to remove stigma from
yes,
and we need to talk about this.
Buki is asking a question.
Okay, let's today let's have your question.
Okay. First, let me appreciate you for a very good presentation, very brief, and it's not boring, even though we are not used to so many terminologies, but it still counts. So straight to my question, is mental illness and its relationship with keeping a job. I can start by stating an example. I owns a hospital, and he employed a medical doctor once. And in the middle of his practice, the guy came out naked. That is one. Two, another example is this. 2015, March 2015, thereabout, there's an aircraft that crashed. The pilot deliberately crashed that plane into a mountainous area. So investigation later revealed that he's having clinical depression. So when we cite examples like this, we can go on and get more examples to cite. So for me, if somebody is coming to my facility to work, I want to know what, in order not to stigmatize, if you tell me, if you can come out and probably we have a record showing your medical certificate and there's an indicator that this guy is this, what is the threshold that is acceptable or an indicator? I can't, if I see it sincerely, I won't take you to that facility to work. I will tag it, I'm going to flag it red. I can't go and put you in a place where you abruptly shut down the facility and catch fire in the middle of the sea. So can you just come up? Can you, I don't know if you get my point. The threshold.
I understand your point very well.
Okay.
So, like, it's very hard for you to just look at somebody and say that, oh, this person has mental illness, I'm not going to hire. Unfortunately, because of stigma associated with mental illness, a lot of people don't seek medical help. They know they need medication, but they just don't seek it because of what people will say about them. So because they are appearing to you like, oh, I'm healthy, everything is just all right with me, does not mean that anyone cannot break at a point in time. Maybe something that happened in his life suddenly, he's been piloting people and doing okay all this time. But one thing I want to bring to your view is the fact that that break will not just immediately occur. You will be noticing a lot of symptoms happening even on the job. You may start noticing some mistake. You may start noticing some anger and frustration openly. You may start seeing how they are interacting. So that will lead you to, okay, what's going on here? For example, I have one lady that will just go in the bathroom and cry. I'm like, okay, something is going on. Like, can you come to my office to talk to me? I did. And I found out that she was going through a significant issue with the family. Then we were able to write her a leave to go. So encouraging open discussion really helped people to come forward to the employer and be like, okay, I'm going through this, I will need this time off for leave. Or I'm going through that, I need help with treatment. What we've done in the US so far is encourage each employer to have like a phone, a toll number that an employee can call to discuss if they're having any mental issues and if they need psychotherapy. So that's what we've done so far in the United States. But Nigeria, we're lacking so much, and that's the reason why we're having some casualties that we're having, which we needlessly shouldn't have.
And I was going to say that because how easy is that in Nigeria? Like, you can just go to your gut work in Nigeria that having mental health issues.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we need to actually get some. We don't have enough psychiatrists in Nigeria. We don't have enough people providing psychotherapy. The job is so stigmatized. Like, if you specialize in psychiatry, they look at you some kind. In fact, they link all of you together like, oh, you must also have psychiatry. But that's not true. Yeah, but that's not true. I'm a psych MP and I don't have any psychiatry issue. Does that mean sometimes I don't go through stuff in life that cause me grief? Yes. Do I also suffer some stuff? Am I anxious about something? Yes. But one thing that has helped me is that I don't bottle stuff inside. I can call you, Moradeyo, and tell you that this is what is going on. And I can cry my heart out as a drop of heart.
I'm like that too.
I live with a psychiatrist.
Yes.
Bayo Yinka
My husband is a
my psychiatrist.
Bayo live with a psychiatrist.
Like Yinka said, okay.
When I'm stressed, I'll call either of them. I'll say, Omo, it's not easy.
No, life is not easy, but one thing I want to say is that we need to be very careful in how we extend ourselves, especially now we're all in our 40s. Well, I hate admitting that I'm still 16. Anyway, our family at home depends so much on us. Oh, you have money in America, send me 500,000, and they fail the business and they want you to send another one again. Don't kill yourself. If they don't get their equilibrium, there is nothing you can do. You are not Jesus Christ. I'm saying this here because I always say that, you know, at the end of the day, you work yourself tired before you even buy yourself a purse. Somebody in Nigeria is buying Prada and you don't even wear Walmart brand. You need to actually borrow yourself some brain there. You know, it's like, how long are you going to save everybody but not take care of yourself? It's not selfish to care for ourselves. And also we have children that will be asking us a bunch of questions. Oh, Shane, they have a question.
No, before that, before saying, Larry had a comment. She said something you said is not true. Larry,
why did I?
No, you said everybody working in that department, probably at the hospital, when people know someone is a psychiatrist, they look down on them or something like that. I don't think that's true.
In Nigeria, yes, so there is that.
No, it's not true. It's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Let's move on, Larry.
That's not true. It's not true. It's not true.
It's not true now.
I know some of them, and I know them well. I don't think they have issues like that. They're not
Larry, we're saying the same thing. It's a myth. It's a myth. It's not true.
Yeah.
But still, it doesn't erase the stigma attributed to the profession. And that's why some people will actually be an orthopedic surgeon instead of choosing psychiatry.
The vice chancellor of OAU when I was in school is a professor of psychiatry. It can never be true now that there is a stigma. The only thing is that, is it something that people actually want to practice in Nigeria? Is there a market for it?
Yes, there is a platform. Can I answer that? Because the reason why I want to answer that is because there is a University of Ife. You finish from Ife now, okay? University of Ife tries to set. University of Ife, Jare. University of Ife, Jare. University of Ife, they are trying to get to kind of have a cross-practicing training in place by sending somebody from, sorry, Saide, I'm sorry, but by sending somebody from School of Medicine in University of Ife to England to come and learn how to practice psychiatry, to come and, not that they do have schools that they go to there, they have psychiatric nurses, they have psychiatric doctors. I know loads of people that have moved from Ife, they come here, they are practices, they are excellent psychiatrists. So there is appetite for it, and there is increased awareness for psychiatry in Nigeria.
It's increasing.
So people want to do it.
Same also in America here, and we have an association actually for psychiatrist professional.
Yeah.
But the problem is the brain drain. If they get offered more salary in US and UK, and you know all these places also need psych provider,
there is brain drain.
We don't have a lot in Nigeria.
There is brain drain everywhere. So we always cope with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Sainde has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Yinka, for the lecture. And then the slide seems to be very, very loaded. What I want to say is not a question per se, it's more or less like a clarification on how to identify somebody that's likely to have mental illness. You know, I work in a bank and then we have an open office. And there's this particular guy that I noticed to have something I would call inferiority complex. And each time we are having a meeting and maybe the boss happened to throw a question and then the guy goes off topic. You know, some of us, you know, we are aware that this guy has inferiority complex, so we keep it mute, we just keep quiet. But some other guys will just laugh, and the guy will feel so bad, you know, to the extent that later on, even if some, you know, he's now getting to a state in which the guy is unsure of himself. And I discovered that is a big problem to the guy in the office. So now, having gone through your lecture, so I'm just trying to think inferiority complex, and you know, people not being aware of how to approach someone, or probably maybe in that particular scenario that I painted, you know, in order to manage it. And then people are not aware, and then the guy is getting bitter every day. So sometimes I feel like, let me just go to this guy and talk to him. But I feel withdrawn at the same time, because I just like, don't let me embarrass this guy one way or the other. So now I just wanted to clarify from your slides, and then you being a professional in that field. What do you think? Do you think this might lead to mental illness for that guy? And or probably maybe it's just one-off thing. So that's what I just needed the clarification on.
Of course, a break like this can lead to mental illness in that guy. So you see somebody that have, well, you call it inferiority complex, I'll call it a low self-esteem. Then is unable to interact with among its peers, number one. That lead to depression, especially being laughed at and being ostracized. So it can get progressively worse. Some will be depressed and just withdraw. But some will come back in anger and say, okay, I want to hurt all of you and your mother. So it depends on how that person is receiving it and what they're going to bring out. But what can you do to help such person? Don't even psych yourself away from going to them to talk about it. Because having low self-esteem comes from very, very beginning of that child development. You know, if you look at Erickson's developmental stages, I think it's around age 3 or so. So that's how the child will actually have industry versus self-esteem. So a child that is allowed to talk and relate to others and build his self-esteem can do well later in life. Whereas a child that is told to sit somewhere and be quiet and not actually interact, have low self-esteem, they are shy, and that also go on to affect them in the later life. So it's very important for that person to seek a psychotherapy, not even medication. So a psychotherapist will go actually to go in depth about what happened in that childhood, how they can help with counseling sessions to correct it and change his view. So it might be cognitive-based therapy that they would use for that person, and actually help him to start accepting himself and building himself more and his self-esteem. So just looking at that scenario goes on makes you also partaker of what is going on with that guy. But what you can do to change it is talking to him about what is going on, seeing if he is going to be open, because you have to be really careful in how to approach this, especially with our cultural context. See if he's going to be open to suggestions that you may have.
Maybe just try to be his friend or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, you want to befriend somebody before you talk about mental illness.
Fair. Thank you, Yinka. Thanks.
Are you his friend, Sandy?
Well, I'm not too close
they
to
might
him.
just be professional colleagues, but
yeah,
just
professional
contribute.
What I mean by that is that, do you kind of would it make any difference if you just invite him out for a coffee or go to lunch together?
Shouldn't hurt.
Would he help?
You know, I, as in my personality, I kind of love to, you know, to be myself, and then I'm not too open to all those kind of talk actually. But there was a time I was moved towards doing that, because I felt pity for the guy. You know, he becomes so bitter that he picks offense with every little thing. You know, you talk in the office, generally you laugh, and then the guy will think probably maybe you guys are gisting about him, and you know, so it's getting out of hand. But I think I will make a move. I'll make a move.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you for making a move, because that's going to impact him positively.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Femi has a question. Bogade has a question also.
No, more like a comment.
Okay.
Yeah. What Sandy said is not is something that is almost you find in many organizations. And I think two things can happen. The person can help himself. The colleague that works with the person can also help him. And having seen people coming into employment as freshers, and this thing depends on so many things. Just like Yinka said, the way people have grown over time and everything affects it. You can help yourself by being deliberate about it. The first thing people were taught, I mean, the first thing I tell my people when they call me is to look at the way they dress. If you dress very sharply and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're happy with what you see, that is the way it improves your confidence and your ability to interact with other guys. So that one helps you. 2, personal development. If you understand what you are saying and you are confident in taking on technical topics, being able to discuss, because what I've also realized is that if you go into the technical, if you stray into technical areas when it comes to discussion, and someone who is supposed to be part of you is absolutely clueless on what you are discussing, it can actually affect that kind of person if the person doesn't have the mental strength to ask a question and say, guys, what you are discussing, I don't understand it. Because the more that happens, that your guys are discussing on issues and it's as if you are in a different planet, it affects your confidence. And the owners, and that's why when I discuss in the office, I tell most especially guys who I see as a junior copy that, guys, no question is useless. And also as colleagues, when we notice things like that, when people have low self-esteem and you see him making some mistakes and you're laughing at him, you're not helping him. Actually, what Shania just said is very critical. People have committed suicide because of these things. People have hurt themselves because they feel so unwanted, they feel so inadequate, right? And just like someone suggested, if you invite that, because I have actually done that to someone who is today is a CEO of a microfinance bank. This person has written a book, and in the forward of that book, he actually made mention of what I did. And I called the guy. He said that actually saved him so many things. He was
thank you.
Yeah, he was working with me. He was going through a phase. I just discovered that this very brilliant guy, and I called him out. I think we went to one of these eateries in VI. I sat him down. He was able to open up. I taught him how to do. About 2 weeks after, he became very efficient. Later, he left, moved to a microfinance bank. I mean, a major one anyway. And today, he's the CEO of that bank. And so people go through a lot of things. Apart from the fact that that person has to help himself, we should also be able to take deliberate steps to help him. Otherwise, that little step that we are taking may actually save lives.
Thank you so much. I think
Radeo
wanted to say something.
Yes.
Femi that I'm saying confused me.
I know. Okay, I'll see what I can do to that. My husband did the setup, so I'm in the study. Sorry about that, everyone.
You okay? No, don't.
Some people have been I'm not sure. Yes.
Change your name.
Good, thank you.
What did you say? Sorry, what did you say?
They've changed your name.
Oh, okay. I want to use myself as an example. This thing saying this said, and then how trusted someone can be helpful. Some years back, I lost my sister. Few years after that, when I relocated, I lost someone very, very close to me here in the UK. Not my blood sister, but this lady, like we grew up together. She was younger, much younger. So when I got to the UK, Ali Masoro Fumbi for long, anytime Tapa Masoro, we talked for hours and hours. We were that close. She was a good Christian and all that. All of a sudden, she died. I was working in London then. You know, anytime I'm going to work, the grief was so much. It was so much. My house to the train station is 2 miles. When I'm walking to the train station, I'm crying. When I'm coming back, it was that bad. So there is this guy at work. He was much older than me. He's an Igbo guy. What he did really, really helped me. I would be in the office and I would just be crying. So what the guy started doing, and being a Christian and all, having a trusted person to talk to is really, really good.
That's
On
true.
several occasions, this guy will just, during my lunchtime, this guy will just say, come on, let's just go for a walk. Then we go for tea, we go for coffee, we just sit down. If I want to cry, it leaves me to cry. I just cry. By the time I do this like 2 or 3 times, then he'll start talking that, okay, this is it, you know? So grief had its own toll on me, you know, the acceptance phase, this phase, that phase, and all that, until I was able to overcome it. So this guy helped. He really helped me to then I was able to accept what actually happened. Then I moved on from there. So having someone to talk to is very good. And someone that when you talk, you know that you won't become the talk of town. Somebody like me, you know, the bubbly me and all that, I knew something was wrong. You know, like someone on the platform was saying, as young as over 30 years ago, that the smiling, I was the senior girl in my primary school, the smiling senior girl and all that. But that really got to me. And my mental health was in shambles. So when we have someone to talk to, it helps. And when we have trusted fella to talk to, you know, a friend. And I like what Yinka said, that, you know what, some of us know ourselves in IGS platform that our gist is, you know, you just call each other up, you pour your mind, you bear your mind, and tomorrow is another day. And that helps. So talking to someone and opening up can really help us. Jilorio is just a phase in life. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, Radio.
Tolu Agbajo has got something to say. Contribution.
Yeah, I think Faith Lowen.
Yes, that's Agbajo now.
I can't believe people use the
You
term.
want to make a contribution?
It sounds so strange coming from you, people.
I've always been using it. Tolu did not get angry at me, you know.
So where is Tolu?
I'm here.
Okay.
Hope everybody can hear us.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Well, let me say well done to Yinka for a well-delivered lecture. I have some contributions to make.
Thank you.
One, especially for those of us who are in Nigeria, mental health issue is now one of the disease burden in Nigeria. And there is increased awareness, unlike what Yinka said. And we are having more psychiatrists in the country. Where I practice, we have 3 consultant psychiatrists. And in Ondo, we have close to 8 consultant psychiatrists. And now we are having postgraduate training in Nigeria, both national postgraduates and the West African College of Physicians, and they offer psychiatry as one of the specialties. Okay. But for us in this group, we must be aware of the various risk factors for developing a mental illness. In our country here, a lot of factors are responsible, starting from the issue of poverty, poor nutrition, low social class, and low self-esteem, like they made mention. Also, stressful life events. Also in Nigeria, we have discovered that early pregnancy is one of the predisposing factors to mental illness. You see young lady who got pregnant out of wedlock coming down with psychiatric illness just immediately after delivery, coming with features of psychosis. Also, some medical illnesses could also predispose to having mental illness. We have discovered that there is increased incidence of mental illness among diabetic patients, among hypertensive patients, especially at the chronic stage. Then children who suffered child abuse are likely to have mental illness. Of course, loneliness could also be a factor. Also, Tunde made mention of an issue concerning the issue of employment, identifying who is likely to be a psychiatry patient or somebody with mental illness employing such a person. One of the problems that we have in the country is that most of the time we just conducted interview, and people perform very well in interview and we absorb them. We don't do what we call pre-employment medical evaluation. Because if you do pre-employment medical evaluation, you'll be able to identify some of these clients that could have psychiatry tendency. And also, even after you have employed an individual, there is what we call pre-placement medical evaluation, so that you'll be able to place that individual into appropriate section of your establishment where he or she could function effectively. Yinka also made mention of the classifications and the criteria that we used. Just like she said, it is actually difficult to say these are, the various type of mental illnesses that we have. But like she made mention of DSM-4, which is a statistical manual that we use to classify. And we have, various symptoms under each of those criteria to say this person has this particular illness or the other. In Nigeria also, apart from DSM-4, we use ICD-10, which is called International Classification of Disease version 10. She also made mention of post-traumatic stress disorder. In fact, this is increasingly becoming an issue in Nigeria because of various vices that we have in our country. The issue of insecurity in Nigeria, post-traumatic stress disorder is becoming an issue. She made mention of it being common among the military officers because they see so many dead people while at war warfare. But in Nigeria, especially in this southwest where I practice, we have discovered that there is increased incidence of post-traumatic stress disorder among rape victims. So if you have any rape victim, that person is likely to be afraid of relationship, afraid of moving to people of opposite sex. Also, people who have been involved in road traffic accidents, there's also many people dying as a result of those traffic accidents. If they are not monitored well, they are likely to come down with post-traumatic stress disorder. Likewise, if you are, be a victim of a robbery attack. In this part of the country, we see so many bank robbery attacks, in the recent times. Many of those banking officials, if they are not monitored very well, they are likely to come down with post-traumatic stress disorder. Likewise, also plane crash. We have plane crash. Many of the passengers who were able to survive the incident may come down with post-traumatic stress disorder. Let me conclude by saying this. I just want to give us the burden of mental illness globally, according to World Health Organization. In Nigeria, 20 to 30% of Nigerian populations are believed to be suffering from mental disorders. Also, it is said that 1 out of 4 children is likely to suffer from mental health illness during their lifetime. So this calls for us to be vigilant. This calls for us to be observant of those people that are close to us. Thank you.
Tolu, were you late?
Yes.
Yes.
I think he was late.
He was late.
He was late. He was late.
And Tolu, I did
Yeah.
mention that the statistics I used was actually from 2016. So it didn't say what is on ground right now. So I'm very delighted to know that we're having more consultants and more psychiatrists So, which is very important that the country is responding to it. But still, we need more funding in Nigeria pumped into psychiatry. So I'm happy that that's happening. So thank you for sharing that. So you wanted page 13?
Yes, I was the one that asked for page 13. Okay, I've seen what I'm sorry, I was not really paying 100% attention when you were discussing this. So it was so this very last one, I was thinking we all want to look nice and all that. If we are a bit overweight, is it a bad thing to want to, but the intense fear of, that was what I wanted to clarify, when it's getting
so yeah, when you have unreasonable fear of weight gain, that when you eat, you have to force yourself to vomit.
Like bulimia.
Like bulimia. Or anorexia nervosa. Anorexia is like, I don't want to eat at all.
Anorexia.
Anorexia. Okay, Jack can explain you.
Prince, new question. Prince, new question.
If you anorexia is actually depriving yourself of basic nutrition that you need. For fear of gaining weight, you don't want to eat at all.
Okay.
So that's deprivation. Okay. Then the other one is bulimia, which is you eat and you go to the toilet immediately to throw up.
Holy Ghost fire.
So some people will actually use laxative to purge.
Really?
Yes. So that's a class of bulimia. I won't go in details to all this because it's another study on its own.
Okay.
And another one is binge eating. Someone will just eat, like eat and die. They can eat I'm telling you, binge eating. So that's another eating disorder. So when you see people that have intense fear, I said intense because it's not ordinary. It's one thing to I don't want to gain weight. I want to be healthy. You want to choose that lifestyle. It's another thing to just have that intense fear from nowhere. Like, okay, if I eat this, what's going to happen? People will look at me, or I won't be able to do ballet or do this and that. Then deprive yourself or eat to the point of throwing up. Of course, that's not normal.
Thank you.
Prince Adebowale has a question.
Yeah. Okay.
Prince, over to you.
He said, I changed my mind.
I don't change your mind.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah, he's asking now.
Yeah, my question is just that I have a kind of a case. Actually, it's my son. Let me just say it's kind of a tragedy day when we have all this armed robber visit. Ever since then, based on what he experienced, most of the time, even in midnight, if he had a kind of a sound, you wake up and then that panic. And I've tried all possible means to calm him down with that number, but that is still trigger. I don't know what someone can do. Even we try to change the environment. I don't know.
So I think your child is suffering from post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
And need to see a specialist. So most of the time we think we can just talk to them and calm them. No, you can do that, but that does not remove the fact that he's been through a traumatic experience. So what I would suggest is actually to seek medical attention for your child. So counseling, helping someone to actually process his thoughts will be very, very crucial towards his management at this time. So that way you can cover that.
So Yinka, I was in Ife in 1999 when Curtis came. Can I still go for PTSD?
Yes, you can. If you can't sleep at night and it's affecting your daily life.
This guy, yeah.
People can sleep on water. Don't mind.
Some of us go through that and actually have issues with Curtis, but it doesn't affect us now.
Sorry,
so far you're having sleepless nights and you have hypervigilance watching over your shoulders, or having intense anxiety and panic attack and can't go out to shop or anything, then you have an issue. It needs to be treated. But if you just have that experience and it didn't affect you as an adult right now,
I have it. The only thing is that it's caused by money.
Okay,
you
we are
pulling
not
my
joking
legs.
here.
You're pulling my legs now.
He's a troublemaker.
Wow.
Don't mind
Baba
him.
Tunde have a quick question.
Okay,
Okay,
is
yeah.
it normal? Is it a normal thing for someone to experience a plane crash and not feel anything?
That's not normal though. You feel a
That's
plane, you
weird.
experience a plane crash and you
Went through
manage
a
to
plane
survive
crash.
from there, but you don't feel
Let
anything.
me just be practical. So
Please.
I have the opportunity to attend a scene of a plane
Yes,
crash. I
that is
saw dead bodies. So during
Holy Ghost fire.
we were actually doing firefighting. So the only problem I had is for a few days I couldn't eat meat. Afterward, it's just a normal. It's normal.
It's possible that sometimes we have what is called self-defense mechanism. So when we face situations like that, our self-defense mechanism cover it up. But that doesn't mean that the situation has been dealt with. Even though for that 3 days you couldn't eat meat, you were processing what happened at that scene that you saw. So it's not that you don't have a reaction. You did. You actually reacted to that. So now everything normalized for you after. Number one, you don't know the people that were involved. You don't have any kind of emotional connection to them, not your family. So it's possible to detach yourself emotionally. Number two, of course, you dealt with that, you saw it, and the visual already is actually affecting you. Then you deprive yourself, you have that 3 days to deal with the situation and process it, then you're back to your normal realm. Now, after that, if you start having dreams about that or having night terrors or afraid of entering plane because you saw that, then you have post-traumatic stress.
I just want to be sure if, because after that episode.
Are you able to enter plane without any problem after that?
No.
Okay. Then I wanted to say something about that colleague of yours, the one that you said it deviates from discussion. Actually, that's a very early warning sign. If you remember in my slide, I talk about confusion. Also, not being able to concentrate or focus on something is one of the early warning signs of mental health disorder. So now I'm actually pleading for you to, I think it's Omishaki, your colleague, need to be seen seriously. Because if he's losing his train of thought in a group, then that's a problem. It's a early warning sign.
Okay, Yinka, can I just ask for this?
Yes.
Tell on banda sọ̀rọ̀ ṣe sign mental illness ni.
Bẹ́ẹ̀ni sir.
Aba.
No.
Ó wà ní board meeting ni o. Employed. Tó bá wà self-employed. Tó wá jẹ́ self-employed yìí ó ṣe board meeting ni o. Tó wá jẹ́ self-employed ó ṣe board meeting ni o. Tó wá jẹ́ self-employed ó ṣe board meeting ni o. Ó ṣe PR.
Hold on.
I do that a lot.
But if you're actually talking to something that is not there and responding to something that is not there, that's a problem. Having a conference with myself.
Somebody said, if you are talking to yourself, that's not a problem. But if you start answering yourself back, that's a problem. That is now schizophrenia.
What about self-talk? What about self-talk?
Exactly. Sorry, I have a question.
It's a monologue.
I have a question.
Yeah. Okay.
I see lots of, Yinka, thank you for the excellent presentation, by the way. I see lots of symptoms here. I just want to domesticate it to some of the things we experience in this part of the world.
Please show your face.
I should show my face.
Yes.
Please see your face.
It's not at home.
It's not at home.
Again, rather than Kule is not at home. That's why
it's not at home.
He's not trying to show us the environment.
Show your face and talk.
Why are you people?
Okay, Kule, what's your question?
My question is that Elubeku, Baba, Okay, so my question is that or just have a treatment illness. Okay. So my question is that Bookie, let's be serious. My question is that of all the symptoms you've mentioned, just trying to domesticate it to my environment, which of these symptoms are actually triggered by weed, as in Igbo?
Or lack of money.
And then, no, not lack of money. Second thing is, I see a lot of these symptoms and I'm beginning to check myself. Maybe the reason I've been quiet. I'm going to check myself that Kunle, you demonstrate or you exhibit some of these tendencies. But I also find out that some of those tendencies are being resolved by bank alerts. So are we saying that poverty could also be an underpinning?
In a way, he has the point.
In Nigeria,
Sally has a point.
In Nigeria, poverty.
You are very, very right.
He has a point. Yes.
Anyone with no money, you have a lot of financial stress and your number one psychosocial stress.
Yes.
For example, not being able to afford 3 meals on the table and you have mouth to feed is a big issue. You have anxiety, you worry, of course, that's going to be excessive. So that's number one in parts of Nigeria. A lot of people are really, really poor.
That's true.
You are very right.
Money can answer some of these questions.
Yes. And Igbo that you talk about, you will notice that I don't put it as substance abuse in my paper. I call it substance use. Most of the time when our brain is depleting in some of our neurotransmitters, we turn into substances to supplement, like cigarettes, like alcohol, like marijuana, like meth, or any other drug use. So the reason why we're doing that is because this chemicals is lacking and we're using for something to supplement it. It's just trying not to be sick. That's how I look at it. Like you're trying not to be sick and going to change your environment or use this stuff to supplement that. But with Igbo, you can have hallucinations. So then that means there is a problem. So I tell you, that's why when somebody comes, you want to check, like, okay, are you on something that you shouldn't be on? 100% let me say 98% will answer, no, I'm not on any substance. So I said, okay, submit yourself for drug screening. So when they do drug screening, you've seen cocaine, you've seen marijuana, you've seen all this stuff in it. Then I'm like, okay, we have to treat you for substance use disorder first. Then we now reassess you and see if you're actually having this diagnosis. Because it's very easy to say somebody has schizophrenia, whereas they are only seeing their babanla because they were smoking Igbo.
Okay, so thank you. The other one is just to buttress the point Ogade made earlier. I've witnessed robbery before, I think on 2 or 3 occasions in traffic. And I realized that for some time, a couple of months afterwards, I get very paranoid when I'm in traffic driving, especially when I see people crossing and all. So although over time, I think it's gradually eased off. I'm not sure if I will still get that kind of shock again if I see people moving around in traffic, especially at night in Lagos. But then my question is, so what kind of medical attention do we need to seek to be able to get this off our mind and to reset us? I mean,
so most
massage, whatever.
Most of the time, when you started noticing deviation from the norm, it's always good to discuss with your primary care provider first. So when the primary care provider see what is going on, then they will now go and actually forward it to a specialist like psychiatrist. Sometimes when you go to psychiatrist, it's not immediately you need medication. You may just need psychotherapy. What you've gone through, I would say, don't use the word paranoia. It's very serious. I think you're only hypervigilance. You're looking around, making sure nobody's stealing you or trying to steal something from you. So being hypervigilant is what you had because of that robbery. So don't use the word paranoia like that loosely. So being hypervigilance is very, very, it's actually part of our defense mechanism. If somebody is robbing someone in daylight and I'm grabbing my purse, I want to hold it extra tight, like, okay, what's going on here before they take the resources I have with me. So you're being vigilant in that regard. So, but now if that is affecting you to travel that road or get in your car to drive or do normal things that you normally would do, then you need to talk to your primary care that, okay, I'm having these symptoms and I'm really panicked about it. So there is need to do some referral and have someone to talk to get to the root of the matter.
Okay, all right, thanks.
I think we've been on for almost 2 hours now, so I think.
Wow, thank you. So you can take us offline.
Much.
It's been, I mean, this
thank
has
you
been
so
enlightening.
It's been very, very enlightening.
The only thing I
Thank you
noticed,
so much.
maybe you can chat about it to the group so that we don't keep everybody here. We didn't talk about the role of faith in this whole thing. Nobody.
I mentioned that as part of coping mechanism. Some people pray. I pray. So sometimes, you know, it depends on our faith. Even though in medical, spirituality is relegated here, but I'm happy that Nigeria we still talk about God and we root for that. So faith plays a very strong role in here. And I want to also say that sometimes people have issues in their marriages they can go to their pastor about, but I will be very careful in suggesting that you go to your pastor only because they are not trained counseling. Some are trained in counseling, some are not.
Yeah.
So it's important to seek professional help. Yeah, you can talk to your pastor, you can pray about stuff, but sometimes you need to talk about
please, before Brady, just before, I think Brady was coming from the last one, but before then, I want to relaunch the poll.
Okay.
Yes, a poll we have. I want to relaunch it, just see a measure of how these this seminar. So please, yeah. Please answer.
Yinka, can you please share
the polling question?
Can you please share the slide or the platform? Can you share it to the platform?
I share exam.
How about your exam, though?
Oh, sure.
How about your exam, though? Marking scheme, wow. So there's marking scheme. It is well with our soul.
Amen.
I mean, our life is well, we're all going to go through stuff through this life, yeah. That's just what it is. So the one thing that I know for sure from experience is isolation. I mean, having a community really, really helps.
Isolation will actually give you opportunity to brood and think about things that you shouldn't be thinking about.
Yes,
but
your
that
mind is
outlet
just
for
going.
distraction is really helpful.
Yeah. And one of the things Yinka said, just a brief coping mechanism that really works for me. One of the things Yinka said, yes, I know it's after when a lot of things happened, I started learning how to swim. It was very therapeutic. I'm a competent swimmer now. When I'm in the water, when I'm in the water, I forget every other thing. I'm just in another realm. It's very therapeutic. You know, I took up swimming, and it really, really helped. It's relaxing. It's very good. So having someone taking up something also helps.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I box.
Moradi, I have a paranoia for water.
Okay, let me tell you.
You have a phobia. You have a phobia.
Bimpe knows this story. When I started learning how to swim, my instructor asked me, "What can you do in water?" I just told her nothing. I couldn't do nothing. I swam first. Thank you. I swam first. Omitode wasting me. If you see what I did, you will laugh at me. Till tomorrow, my instructor still laughs at me. I was running in water because I was scared. Wasting me, I was running. And when you are running in water, so he was just laughing. And 18 months down the line, I'm here diving into 2.1 meter pool, touching the floor, you know.
Let me share my experience related to that. Growing up, RBT, I'm sorry. Growing up,
fear of,
do we still need to be on live? Yeah.
Let me,
Oh,
let me,
No,
let me-
let's go
let me
out.
stop it.
Are we still live?